With the final shape less than a week away, we've had a lot of time to prepare ourselves with so much in the game. But at the same time, there's so much we've been shown, especially of the new upcoming things our characters can do, that many of it can be overwhelming for many players. That's where I come in. I want to start everyone off right, with a build using what we currently know from the Prismatic subclasses for each class. That way, you're ready to go once you're dropped in and the game asks you to try some hard content with the new class. As a warning, I won't be mentioning anything about the new supers or aspects, as we still don't know how good they are, or for some of them, what they even do. Instead, I'll be working around that. I've put together a build for each class simply with what we know will be good. Some of these builds may end up getting even better come final shape when we play around with the new things in the game and find out what they can really do. I'll also be avoiding things that interact with Transcendence, since it's somewhat unclear the strength, uptime, and importance of it. But generally, being more effective will let you live longer to make use of it, so even without speccing for it, it should still be effective. For exotics and exotic class items, we recently found out that it isn't possible to equip both at the same time, which was what I assumed, as otherwise, power creep in this game would be unimaginably broken. These sections will thus be extremely broad, as many options are viable. Starting with Hunters, our melee and grenade will be combination blow and grapple. You'll see where this is going. For our class ability, we'll use Gambler's Dodge to keep our melee uptime as high as possible. For aspects, I'm running Winter's Shroud for slowing targets, making it a bit easier to punch, and Stylus Executioner, which you'll see. For our supers, I have Silence and Squall, mainly for how we'll interact with our fragments. Also, roaming supers aren't that good right now. For our fragments, we have Facet of Protection, Facet of Dawn, Facet of Bravery, and Facet of Purpose. Here's how the build works. We're going to use the initial grapple melee setup as the current Strand Titan setups do. Navigator will now apply Unravel for easy tangle creation, which will alleviate the tangle point nerf. And Avoid 1-2 punch shotgun will apply Volatile to gain free invis and following melee debuffs. Both rounds will be granted by grapple melees, thanks to Facet of Bravery, as the ability counts as both a grenade and a melee. Because of this, due to Facet of Dawn applying as well, this will also grant us a permanent radiant damage bonus and anti-barrier function into our class. Orbs dropped from hands-on mods additionally grant Frost Armor, stacking damage resist with Facet of Protection and 10 resilience, thanks to our Silence and Squall being our super. For single exotic armor pieces, Assassin's Cowl for survivability with invis not locked to cooldown, allowing your Stylus Executioner to be a backup invis, or mainly for its second debuffing effect, will be a strong option to keep your survivability high. Another option is to go for Liar's Handshake for extreme melee damage that could very easily surpass what current Strand Titans are able to do. For exotic class items, you have a few options in the first and second columns, depending on if you're lucky enough to get the combos you want, or how safe/aggressive you want to go. In the first column, Spirit of Assassin or Spirit of Caliban's stands out the most, offering either invis uptime to live easier, or ignitions on melee kills to slay out faster. For the second column, Spirit of Syntheseps or Spirit of Liars are the go-to simple picks for damage. This also depends on how viable Liar's Handshake effects are to proc with grapple melees. Alternative to that is Spirit of Surtarachnid for Woven Mail that could stack with your Frost Armor to live even more, or Verities to imitate the Strand Warlock build and stack even more damage. I suspect that Verities or Liars will give you the highest damage cap, Synthos will be the easiest to use, and Surtarachnids will be the safest option. For a DPS swap, Spirit of Galanar and Spirit of Star Eater are definitely best. Spirit of Foe Tracer is also good if you have ideal weapons to match your super. Next up is Prismatic Warlock. Our melee and grenade are fairly optional, as you'll see it from the aspect soon. For melees, I generally would prefer Chain Lightning or Arcane Needle. For grenades, I'll tend to opt for healing grenades, but we'll be using stasis turrets for the most of this. Class ability is completely up to you. For our super, we're going to use Needle Storm for high burst damage. On our aspects, we're using Bleak Watcher, the stasis turret, and Feed the Void for Devour. This is in a trailer, and there's a reason for it. It's really strong. For fragments, Facet of Purpose, Facet of Ruin, Facet of Protection, and Facet of Balance. Thankfully, this gameplay loop is a lot simpler to follow. We'll play the class similar to how we would a normal Stasis Warlock build, but with Devour, increasing our survivability while using a strong DPS super of Needlestorm. Siphon mods will also easily grant orbs on frozen targets, letting you get Woven Mail to increase survivability even more, thanks to Facet of Purpose. For a single exotic to pair, I would almost always go with Eye of Another World, for target prioritization, granting tons of free ability energy, letting you have an army of stasis turrets at the same time, especially alongside the exotic grenade energy refunded from Devour. Alternative options can be either Necrotic Grips, or maybe the new exotic coming out. For exotic class items, I'd go with either the Spirit of Stag and Spirit of Starfire, granting you further damage resist while granting you more sources of grenade energy for even more turrets, or, for damage, swapping your Healing Nade for safety to Threadling Grenade, then using Spirit of Apotheosis and Spirit of the Star Eater for super enhanced DPS windows, possibly making use of some of the demolition weapons in your rotation for a reloadless damage. For Prismatic Titan, our melee and grenade will be Frenzied Blade and Pulse Grenade. Our super will also be Thunder Crash for a high damage option similar to the rest of the builds. For aspects, Knockout and Diamond Lance, allowing all of your powered melees from Knockout to spawn Diamond Lances, so long as nothing changes on its activation requirement. For fragments, we have Facet of Protection, Facet of Dominance, Facet of Dawn, and Facet of Defiance. For this gameplay loop, things will be fairly simple. We'll play it as we would with any other Arc Titan, except, instead of having enhanced grenades, our melees will produce the Diamond Lances, letting us deal with unstoppable champs, and make melee chains easier. On top of that, with Facet of Dawn giving us consistent Radiant uptime similar to Bonk Titan now, we'll be dealing with barrier champions just as easily. Pulse Nades with Jolt act as high secondary damage and area denial, as well as deal with the final champion in the build, stunning overloads. For exotics, please just use Synthos. High ability damage across the board, as well as being updated to have built-in heavy-handed mod effects to ease the build on orb generation. As the main melee add clear class, with high orb interaction, special finishing is this class's specialty, so increasing your survivability towards crowd control while fulfilling that job is excellent with Facet of Defiance. For exotic class items, the first column can be either Spirit of Inmost Light, Spirit of Assassins, or Spirit of Severance, depending if you wish to lean into a melee build more aggressively, more safely, or if you'd prefer to have a more balanced kit. If you choose to pick Inmost Light, swapping Defiance for Facet of Hope, letting you have an elemental buff improve your class ability regen, might let you take that even further. For the second column, Spirit of Synthos for the best feel, and Spirit of Cannon for the most flashy fun version. For a DPS swap, you can switch to Spirit of Eternal Warrior and Spirit of the Star Eater for really high damage, so long as you bring arc weapons. Alright, there's the builds. Personally, I was most excited seeing the Hunter's Prismatic kit, as they seem to perfectly align all of their abilities into the perfect storm of chaos that I can easily see breaking the game in two. The other classes on Warlock and Titan seem to play more as augmented versions of their base classes, but a bit better, with Prismatic Warlock standing out to me as a Stasis Warlock with Devour and a damage super, and Titans having a safer and stronger kit to take full effect of the Arc Titan's very potent super. Funny enough, while making this video, the ability tuning update for the rest of our classes came around and buffed those said classes fairly well on top of this, giving Prismatic some competition. That is, if not for Transcendence mode granting unique grenades to each class, they'll probably have a big spike in power thanks to that. We'll just have to wait and see, I guess. With the biggest DLC in Destiny's history around the corner, I can't wait to see what they have in store. Until then, enjoy our prep week.